So when a movie comes out and I get absolutely obsessed with it, there is one thing I love seeing. Concept art, like what a character could have looked like. It's the epitome of what could have been. Even if the character looks amazing on screen, it's always interesting to see the process from start to finish, including concept art. Like obviously, case in point, we have stuff like Ralph McQuarrie's wonderful concept art for Star Wars with the original look of Vader, Han, Chewie, even moving forward to the Phantom Menace where we get an original look at what Darth Maul could have looked like. We've even got instances of what Bane could have looked like from The Dark Knight Rises, hell, even Shrek. But one that really stood out to me was the original concept art for Heath Ledger's Joker from 2008's The Dark Knight. There weren't many concept designs done. Ultimately, what we got on screen is one of my favorite looks for a villain of all time, let alone the Joker. And I love a lot of the looks of the Joker, but I think Heath's face, the clown makeup, the scars, everything that just works so well. But with this particular piece of concept art, it's horrifying, man. It definitely fits the world of Christopher Nolan, but at the same time, I think, is it a step too far where it's so horrific? Anyway, we have that concept art, but one particular very talented artist went above and beyond and recreated that concept art in a practical makeup, and I'm going to be covering it today with his full blessing. I've been speaking with the man himself, who's been an absolute gem, and I just wanted to showcase this in a video because I want more eyes on this thing. It recently debuted at Monsterpalooza last weekend, which I just wish I had been there. I've been to Monsterpalooza before. That was 2017, one of the best weekends of my life, just in my absolute element. So before we go any further, I actually just want to give a massive shout out to my dear, very talented friend, Mr. Bob Causey. If you guys are around back in the day, the early Brotherhood of the Bat days, forum days and stuff like that, he was the go-to guy for sculpting bat suits and stuff like that. Bob actually sent me this a few years ago. This is a resin printed scan of Heath Ledger's live cast. Didn't come with the scars, but I went ahead and painted it up with the clown makeup, and it's pretty cool. So just have that lying around, but also shout out to you, Bob. So the very talented artist in question is Mr. Dan Crawley. Here is his Instagram right here. Now, Dan is no stranger to this channel. I've mentioned him once before with that Allstate Batman commercial from a few months ago. I did coverage on that because I think the Batsuit, the Joker, the costumes, the makeup were really damn good and impressive, and it's something I would have loved to have seen in a full-blown live-action film. Dan actually had a hand in that commercial, most notably the teeth for the actor that played the Joker and the actor that played Two-Face. Dan, that's as far as I know in terms of your involvement. If there was any more pieces you worked on, please let me know. But yeah, and that was pretty cool. So again, Dan decided to take it upon himself to start a project to recreate the original Joker concept art for The Dark Knight in a practical prosthetic on an actor with a wig, with a suit, just to emulate what those sketches look like. And to say that he crushed it is an understatement. So I'm going to take you through Dan's process. He has typed out a massive email for me, dot pointing his journey and everything he did to get to where the finished product was. So the dude just went above and beyond. So a massive thank you for giving me your blessing to do this video, man. So I guess we obviously start with the original concept art. Now, this was done by Rob Bliss back in the day when The Dark Knight was in pre-production. Again, it's a very haunting image, especially those blacked out eyes, but the scarring as well. There is a lot more facial scarring going on compared to ultimately what we got on screen with Heath Ledger's Chelsea grin, essentially. But still, this is quite disturbing to look at. No clown makeup whatsoever. Now, before I go on to what Dan typed up for me, I just want to give a few shout out and credits to the people that helped with this overall look. So obviously we have the man himself, Mr. Dan Crowley. Now, the model that wears the makeup, sports it, is an absolute gem and just wears it so well, is Mr. David Ayer. And no, not this David Ayer, David Ayer, like the shit we breathe. Now, when it came to the wig, that was done by the extremely talented Dawn Victoria Dudley of Well Dressed Wigs, and you can see the process here of what the wig started out like, to cutting, then dyeing, styling, and it's a beautiful lace front wig. We also had Miss Jackie Kuhn, who helped out with assisting Dan, I believe. So here's what Dan typed up for me, and he goes on to say, when I first saw the unused concept art of the Joker by artist Rob Bliss, I knew I wanted to bring it to life. It was so disturbing and grotesque, a different take on the Joker that I'd ever seen before. All of his artwork is fantastic and unique. He really deserves the credit for this design. Looking at that image, a backstory that would inform my design started to fill in. I saw the horribly scarred face and imagined a Joker who had many mishaps with improvised explosives, dynamite, and other incendiary devices, and often his weapons of chaos in the comics. A character like the Joker isn't going to be able to walk into a hospital when something blows up in his face. So I imagined that he'd be forced to use back alley mobster plastic surgeons to haphazardly patch himself back together. My sculpture forms and textures were based on real life references of burn victims and plastic surgery gone wrong. When I had the contact lenses made, I used images of real people's eyes who have been damaged by fire or explosion shrapnel, heavy scar tissue, cataracts, and torn retinas. Finally, and perhaps the most important thing, I strictly did not want to do any clown makeup or quote unquote war paint. I just can't imagine this unhinged, mentally deranged guy sitting in front of the mirror to paint his face. Instead, again, I turned to medical textbooks for inspiration. When scar tissue forms, it ranges from pinks to reds and even browns. The thinner skin around can lose pigmentation and appear very pale. Rather than literal white makeup and red lipstick, I wanted to imply the look with the pale, damaged skin surrounding the ruddy colored scars that, when viewed at a distance or in the darkness, implied a sinister smile. I often thought of comic book depictions as the hyper-stylized versions of what characters look like when being described by a traumatized bystander or victim, rather than the actuality of their appearance in real life. In keeping with the thought process and trying to stay grounded in the world of Nolan's films, that was my guide, and it certainly paid off, man. As you can see right here, I've just shown you guys the work in progress photos of Dan's beautiful sculpture work. This is a multi-piece prosthetic with that beautiful wig on top, and even the suit. This is a much more cleaner, simple looking suit, which definitely works, and it all just comes together on the model David's face. He works it well. Those contact lenses as well, really just the cherry on top. I think this is a wonderfully disturbing and beautiful prosthetic. So kudos to Dan, his assistants, everyone involved. I love seeing stuff like this when people bring things to life that never came to fruition, whether it be unused artwork, concept artwork, or stuff that's dreamt up from an artist's imagination of a what could have been scenario. Now, what else I'd love to see? I'd love to see Dan do busts of this makeup, whether it be on the actor/model David's face, or even try and get a life cast of Heath Ledger, a scan of Heath Ledger, glue those prosthetics down to see how it looks on Heath's face. And I know he also mentioned that he didn't want clown makeup on there. I would also just love to see, again, what could have been where there is skerricks left of clown makeup. It's gotten in all the scars. It's getting infected and pussy because he's not cleaning it properly. Hell, even with longer hair and stuff like that. There is so much you could do with this. Even your own spin on the clown makeup, not necessarily like Ledger's. And there you go, guys. I hope you dug this little video. Again, a massive thank you to Dan for giving me your blessing to cover this. Again, it's just so cool to see stuff like this coming to life, and he documented every part of the process, which I love seeing. Again, there is so much room for playing around with this, to have clown makeup on it, but leaving it as is still just as terrifying. I'd also love to see Dan do this makeup, but with the full cupped black contact lenses and black makeup around, like the eyes are blacked out, how you see it in the concept art. Again, it's just so disturbing. David, the model, wears it so damn well. So I'm very keen to see more photos, video footage of this to see how the makeup moves. I did see skerricks of footage here and there during the weekend at Monsterpalooza with people posting it on their stories, and Dan obviously applying it to David, the model, piece by piece, the work in progress, and then eventually the final result. So with that being said, guys, drop a comment down below and let me know what's your favorite piece of concept art, or even your favorite piece of concept art that looks better than what we ultimately got on screen. Love you guts, and I'll catch you in the next one.